They watch you and they whisper, though their lips never move. They smile at you, but the smile doesn't reach their eyes. Somewhere deep in their spirit, they already know you're not one of them. And the truth is, you've always felt it too. You've walked into rooms where laughter dies the moment you arrive, where conversations shift, and people suddenly wear masks. It isn't because you did something wrong. It's because you carry something they cannot touch, and they feel it before you even speak. Let me ask you something directly. Haven't you noticed the way strangers sometimes glare at you with no reason? The way your own family can seem unsettled around you, as if they can't quite figure you out? That's because they can't. You don't belong to the patterns they're stuck in, and they know it. Right now, you need to hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. In fact, what sets you apart is the very thing that makes the world uncomfortable. You are carrying light in a world addicted to shadows, and the shadows resist you without even understanding why. But here's the shocking part. Even before you ever realized who you were, they already sensed it. Animals sense storms before they arrive, and people sense chosen ones before they awaken. That's why you've been isolated, betrayed, or treated as an outcast. It was never rejection, it was recognition. Pause for a moment and hit the like button if this speaks to your soul, because what you're about to discover is the reason life has never felt ordinary for you. You see, the chosen walk a road that is narrow, not because they chose it, but because the road itself chose them. You didn't choose to be different, you didn't choose to feel deeper, to dream bigger, to ache harder, but it was woven into your being from the start. And when you walk among those who have surrendered to mediocrity, to sameness, to masks and illusions, they look at you and their spirit flinches. Why? Because your very existence reminds them of what they lost. The fire they buried, the truth they silenced, the dreams they abandoned. Do you want to know why you've been envied by people who had more than you? Why they secretly resented you when you had nothing but yourself? Because deep down, they saw something money couldn't buy, beauty couldn't fake, and status couldn't manufacture. They saw authenticity, and it terrified them. You are a mirror they cannot escape, and when they look into your reflection, they are forced to confront the emptiness of their own existence. This is why you've been misunderstood. People don't just dislike you for no reason. They dislike what they see in themselves when you're around. They dislike the fact that you don't bend, that you don't shrink to fit their expectations, that your soul refuses to sell out even when it costs you everything. And maybe you've asked yourself late at night, why me? Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just blend in and live peacefully? But tell me, could the sun ever decide to be darkness? Could the ocean pretend to be a puddle? Could a lion pretend to be a house cat just because it's surrounded by cages? No, and neither can you. Here's something they'll never admit to your face. They study you. They watch how you carry yourself. They notice how you walk differently, how your silence says more than their loudest words, how your presence shifts atmospheres without trying. And while they pretend not to notice, inside they're unsettled. They ask themselves, what is it about this person? And they can't answer it. That's why some try to copy you, some try to compete with you, and some try to destroy you. But none of them can truly become you, because what you carry was never manufactured, it was divinely placed. But let me tell you something else that may shock you. Your difference is not just about you. It's about the assignment attached to your life. Chosen ones don't just live, they carry a mission. Every hardship you've faced, every betrayal, every season of loneliness. It was sculpting you, sharpening you, preparing you to stand when others fall, to rise when others collapse, to speak when others stay silent. That's why you've survived things that should have destroyed you. That's why you've walked through fires and came out without the smell of smoke. That's why people have wondered how you're still standing. And deep down, so have you, they want you to doubt yourself. They want you to believe you're crazy, overthinking, paranoid. But the truth is, your discernment has always been sharp. You notice things no one else sees. You feel the shift in energy when someone walks into the room. You sense lies even when people swear they're telling the truth. That's not paranoia. It's spiritual sight. And it sets you apart in a way that makes people nervous. They know they can't hide from you. They know they can't wear their mask too long around you, because something in you exposes them without you even trying. But here's the twist, you're not just exposing them, you're awakening them. An awakening is uncomfortable. Imagine someone fast asleep in a dark room, and suddenly you rip open the curtains and flood the space with sunlight. They'll be angry, they'll curse the light, they'll cover their eyes, but eventually they'll have to see. That's what your presence does. You don't just walk into rooms, you bring light into them, and people either hate you for it or secretly crave what you carry. Now think about this. Why do you think you've always felt restless with what others settle for? Why do you think jobs, friendships, and environments that make others comfortable have always left you suffocating? Because you weren't built for the cage. You weren't designed to live small. You weren't sent here to blend into the background. You were created to disturb the false peace of the world, to shake the foundations, to call out the truth, even when it makes everyone around you uncomfortable. That's why deep inside, they know you're not one of them. And that's why they treat you differently. But here's where it gets even deeper. This separation is not rejection. It's protection. If you had fit in, you would have lost yourself. If they had fully embraced you, you might have compromised your essence just to keep their love. But destiny has a way of stripping away everything that doesn't align with who you're becoming. And right now, you are in the becoming. This is only the beginning of why they can't sit comfortably around you, why their spirit reacts before their mind understands, why they push you away while secretly being drawn to you. You are a paradox to them, both a threat and a source of fascination. And as we go deeper, you'll see exactly how this tension is shaping not only their response to you, but your journey forward. Recognition feels like rejection because the world cannot admit what it sees. They can't walk up to you and say, "I know you're different. I know you're chosen. I know you carry something I'll never touch." Instead, they turn it into mockery, into jealousy, into distance. But make no mistake, they saw it in you long before you could name it yourself. Think back to your childhood. Do you remember how even then, you were never fully accepted? Maybe other kids picked on you. Maybe adults treated you with suspicion or harshness. You weren't the loudest or the strongest, but something about you drew attention, both good and bad. That's because your energy has always been loud, even when your voice was quiet. The chosen cannot hide, even when they try. And you've spent so much of your life trying to hide, haven't you? Trying to fit in, trying to be like everyone else, trying to mask your depth with simplicity. But every time you tried, it crumbled. Every time you thought, "This time I'll belong," something happened to pull you out again. That wasn't failure, it was fate. Now let me shock you with this. Your uniqueness is not a weakness. It is a weapon. You've been placed in environments where betrayal was certain, where jealousy was inevitable, where misunderstanding was guaranteed, so that you would sharpen your discernment, strengthen your spirit, and learn not to depend on the approval of those who will never understand you. They were never meant to understand you. They were meant to reveal themselves to you. Every knife in your back was really an unveiling, showing you who was never truly standing with you. But here's the haunting truth. They will always be drawn back to you. Haven't you noticed how people who once mistreated you somehow circle back into your life? They want to see if you've lost your shine, if you've grown weary, if the weight of life has dimmed your flame. They want to see if you've become like them, because nothing would satisfy them more than knowing that even you, the one who stood apart, eventually gave in and became ordinary. But you haven't and you won't, and that fact eats at them more than anything else. Let me ask you something piercing. Why do you think your silence makes them nervous? Why do you think your absence is louder than their presence? Why do you think even when you leave a room, people still talk about you? It's because you leave imprints. You don't just pass through life, you carve through it. You mark souls without meaning to. Your energy lingers like perfume in an empty hallway, like echoes in a cave long after the sound has stopped. That's why they know you're not one of them, because they are forgettable and you are unforgettable. But here comes the twist. Being unforgettable comes at a cost. You don't get the luxury of being invisible. You don't get to walk unnoticed. And sometimes that feels unfair. Sometimes you wish you could just be invisible, just fade into the crowd, just escape the eyes always watching, judging, measuring. But invisibility is not an option for the chosen. You were meant to be seen, even by those who despise you. You were meant to shine, even when the world prefers shadows. You were meant to disturb even when peace feels easier. And here's where the story sharpens. You are not one of them because you were born to lead them out. This is the paradox of the chosen. They reject you, but they follow you. They mock you, but they imitate you. They ignore your words, but they secretly rearrange their lives after watching you live. They may never admit it, but you are their compass. You are proof that another way exists. You are evidence that settling is not the only option. And while they resist you outwardly, their spirit clings to you because you embody the very thing they crave but cannot claim. Think of every time someone tried to dim your light by calling you too much or too different. What they really meant was, you remind me of everything I lost, and I can't stand it. That's why your wins feel like their losses. That's why your joy feels like their pain. That's why your elevation feels like their downfall. But understand this, their reaction says nothing about your worth and everything about their emptiness. Here's another truth they don't want you to know. Deep inside, they respect you. Even the ones who gossip about you, even the ones who roll their eyes, even the ones who act like you don't matter. Why? Because secretly, they know they could never endure what you've endured. They know they could never stand in the fire and still walk out whole. They know they could never carry the weight you carry daily and still rise every morning. They may never confess it, but in the privacy of their own thoughts, they admit you are stronger than them. And strength intimidates. Strength unsettles. Strength makes the weak uncomfortable. That's why you've always felt like you had to fight battles alone, because your very presence makes people feel inadequate, and instead of rising with you, they retreat from you. But listen carefully, those battles weren't punishments. They were training grounds. Every storm was shaping you. Every betrayal was refining you. Every season of loneliness was carving out space for the destiny that requires your full capacity. But here's where it gets even deeper. You've only scratched the surface of who you are. What people sense in you, what they react to, is just the beginning. If you've ever wondered why you're restless, why you feel there's more to your life than you've tapped into yet, it's because your spirit already knows you're carrying dimensions you haven't even awakened, and that unsettles them even more. Because if you shine this bright while still discovering yourself, what will happen when you fully awaken? What will happen when you step unapologetically into your power? What will happen when you stop doubting, stop shrinking, stop second-guessing, and finally stand tall in everything you are? That's what terrifies them most. Not who you are now, but who you are becoming. And deep inside, they know they won't be able to stop it. So pay attention. Every time you feel resistance, every time you feel people pulling away, every time you feel the weight of being misunderstood, it's not happening because you're on the wrong path. It's happening because you're getting closer to unlocking the fullness of who you are. Resistance always intensifies before a breakthrough. And right now, the reason you feel the tension so strongly is because the breakthrough is near. Remember this, you are not one of them and you never will be. But that is your power, not your prison. That is your freedom, not your curse. That is the reason you are still here, still breathing, still rising when others have fallen. And as we go deeper, you're about to see how this separation, this undeniable recognition, was never meant to isolate you. It was meant to position you. Because destiny is not coming, it's already knocking. Destiny doesn't whisper politely. It shakes your foundations, it disrupts your comfort, it rearranges your life until you can no longer pretend to be ordinary. That's why nothing has ever gone according to plan for you. That's why even when you tried to follow the same path as everyone else, life ripped the script from your hands and wrote a new one. Destiny doesn't care about fitting in, it cares about fulfillment. And the truth is, fulfillment for you has never been about blending in with the crowd. It has always been about walking the path few dare to walk. That's why doors have closed on you. Not because you weren't worthy, but because those doors led to cages too small for your wings. That's why people have walked away from you. Not because you were unlovable, but because their hands were too weak to carry the weight of your journey. That's why the life you once thought you wanted always felt empty in your hands. Because destiny has been stripping away every illusion, every false comfort, every shallow attachment, until only the truth remains. And the truth is this, you are not here to live quietly. You are here to shake the very ground you stand on. But let me give you a warning, the closer you get to stepping into that fullness, the louder the resistance becomes. That's why lately you may have noticed the attacks have intensified. People you thought were allies suddenly show their true faces. Opportunities you thought were secure slip through your fingers. Doors you thought were locked suddenly swing open, and others you thought were open slam shut. This is not chaos, it's calibration. The universe, God, the divine, whatever name you call it, is rearranging the pieces so you cannot be distracted, so you cannot settle, so you cannot miss what you were sent here to do. And here's a piercing question. Do you feel it? That restless energy inside you, that sense that something is on the horizon, something you can't quite name but you know is coming? That's destiny knocking. That's your future calling. That's the undeniable pull of purpose, refusing to let you grow comfortable in places you've outgrown. That's why every time you try to settle, something feels wrong. That's why even when you get what you thought you wanted, there's still a hunger in you that won't be silenced. Because you weren't made for crumbs, you were made for the feast. But here's the shocking twist. Most people will never reach this point. Most people silence the restlessness. They drown it in distractions, numb it with noise, bury it under routines. They convince themselves they're happy, even as their soul starves. But you can't. You've tried, haven't you? You've tried to ignore the hunger, to silence the call, to pretend you're satisfied. But it never works. The fire always returns. The voice always rises. The vision always breaks through. Why? Because you are chosen. And chosen ones do not get the luxury of comfort. This is why you are not one of them. Because while they run from the fire, you are being forged in it. While they hide from the truth, you are being shaped by it. While they bury their dreams, you are being haunted by yours until you answer the call. And the more you resist it, the heavier it feels. That's why life has felt unbearable at times. Not because you're weak, but because your spirit refuses to let you settle. But here's where it gets even deeper. Your destiny isn't just about you. It's about the lives you're connected to, the chains you're meant to break, the darkness you're meant to expose. That's why the opposition has been so relentless. Because it isn't just about stopping you. It's about stopping everyone who would be freed through you. Every chosen one carries more than themselves. You carry generations, you carry blueprints, you carry breakthroughs that the world has never seen. And that's why they can't accept you as one of them. Because you were never meant to repeat their patterns, you were meant to rewrite them. Think about it. Why do you think you've always questioned everything? Why do you think rules that others follow blindly never made sense to you? Why do you think you could never just go along with the system, the traditions, the lies everyone else accepted? Because your spirit was wired to resist chains. You weren't built to follow, you were built to lead. But leadership always begins with isolation. Before you lead anyone, you must first walk alone. That's why you've spent so much of your life misunderstood, rejected, and set apart. Not because you were less, but because you were being prepared for more. And here's something powerful. Every chosen one reaches a breaking point where they must decide. Shrink back into the comfort of the crowd, or step boldly into the unknown of destiny. And right now, you are standing at that threshold. Everything you've gone through has brought you here. Every betrayal, every closed door, every lonely night. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now, the decision is in your hands. Will you keep pretending you're one of them, or will you finally rise into the fullness of who you are? Let me be blunt. If you choose the crowd, you'll never find peace. You can fake it, you can bury it, you can pretend, but that fire inside you will never die. It will burn quietly, tormenting you, reminding you of everything you could have been. But if you choose destiny, yes, it will cost you. Yes, it will set you apart. Yes, it will strip away the comfort of being accepted. But it will give you something far greater: authenticity, fulfillment, and the unshakable knowledge that you lived your life as the one you were born to be, not the mask they wanted you to wear. And listen carefully. The world may not celebrate you, but the world will be changed by you. They may never admit it, but they will always feel it. Your presence shifts things. Your voice carries weight. Your spirit breaks atmospheres. And when you finally step fully into your calling, even those who denied you will be forced to acknowledge you. They may not clap, they may not cheer, but they will know. Deep down, they already know. That's why you've never been one of them. Because you were never meant to be. You were meant to be the one who rises when others fall, the one who stands when others crumble, the one who walks a road no one else dares to walk. And that path is opening before you now. The question is, will you step into it? Because what happens next will shake not only your life but the lives of everyone connected to you. And once you see it, you'll never be able to go back. The moment you choose destiny, the atmosphere around you shifts. It's almost invisible to the eye, but your spirit feels it. Suddenly, doors that were sealed tight begin to creak open, while doors you clung to shut with force. Suddenly, people you thought were permanent disappear, and strangers you've never met before show up as if guided. The world rearranges itself to match the vibration of your decision. Because destiny doesn't follow you, you follow destiny. And once you say yes, there is no going back. But understand this. Saying yes to your calling doesn't mean life gets easier. In fact, it often gets harder. The weight increases, the attacks sharpen, the loneliness deepens. Not because you're cursed, but because pressure is the price of greatness. Diamonds are only created under extreme heat and pressure. Gold is only purified when the fire burns hottest. And the chosen are only revealed when the storm rages loudest. That's why you've walked through fires others could never survive, because you are being shaped into something rare, something unbreakable, something eternal. And here's the paradox. While the world looks at you and sees struggle, heaven looks at you and sees strength. While they whisper that you're cursed, the truth is you're being crowned. While they think your suffering proves you're weak, it is the very proof that you are set apart. Because chosen ones are tested differently. The storms that destroy others only strengthen you. The betrayals that break others only refine you. The loneliness that crushes others only deepens your connection with the divine. You don't just endure pain, you are transformed by it. But let me ask you something piercing. How many times have you thought you were finished, only to rise again? How many times have you been counted out, only to come back stronger? How many times did they celebrate your downfall, only to watch you resurrect? That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's destiny refusing to let you stay buried. Because chosen ones don't stay down, they rise. Again and again they rise. And that rise terrifies people. Because nothing unsettles the world more than someone who refuses to be destroyed. They expect you to crumble, and when you don't, their spirit trembles. They expect you to quit, and when you keep going, their jealousy ignites. They expect you to lose yourself, and when you only grow stronger, their fear deepens. Because every time you rise, you prove something they cannot bear to face. You are not like them. You are operating under a grace, a strength, a protection they cannot touch. But here's the deeper truth, they already know this. Even if their mouths deny it, their spirit knows it. That's why some are drawn to you like moths to flame, and others recoil from you like shadows from light. That's why some want to learn from you, while others want to destroy you. Because you are a living contradiction to everything they believe is possible. You are proof that chains can be broken, that pain can be transformed, that destiny cannot be denied. And whether they love you or hate you, they cannot ignore you. Now pay attention to this. There will come a time when the very ones who rejected you will try to return. They will act like they never doubted you, like they never betrayed you, like they never mocked you. And you'll feel the temptation to welcome them back, to shrink again just so you won't be alone. But remember this, you were not called to go backward. You were called to move forward. And moving forward means leaving behind everything and everyone that cannot carry the weight of your destiny. Because destiny doesn't wait for those who hesitate. It moves. It flows. It rises like a river. And if you don't flow with it, you drown in the still waters of regret. That's why life feels urgent for you. That's why you can't waste time the way others do. That's why you don't feel comfortable in stagnation. Because you know time is precious, and your calling is too great to be delayed by dead weight. But here comes the shocking twist. You were never meant to walk this path alone. While the crowd rejects you, while family misunderstands you, while friends betray you, there are others, scattered across the world, who carry the same fire. They may not be beside you yet, but they exist. And destiny has a way of aligning chosen ones with each other at the appointed time. You've felt alone because you've been walking the early stages. But as you rise higher, you will meet others who rise too. And when chosen ones connect, movements are born. So hold on. Don't let the isolation fool you. Don't let the rejection break you. Don't let the loneliness convince you you're forsaken. Because what feels like abandonment is really alignment. The people meant for your journey will find you when the time is right, and when they do, everything will accelerate. But until then, you must embrace the solitude. Because solitude is where your power is forged. Solitude is where your clarity is sharpened. Solitude is where your voice grows louder than the noise of the world. Think about it, every great leader, every visionary, every revolutionary had a season of solitude. They were laughed at, dismissed, isolated. People called them crazy, delusional, arrogant. Until the day came when the very same world that rejected them was forced to follow them. And that's where you're heading. They may not see it now, but one day they will. And on that day, they will realize why they always knew you weren't one of them. But here's something you need to know. You cannot wait for their validation. If you wait for the world to affirm you, you'll die waiting. If you wait for them to understand you, you'll waste your entire life. You must step into who you are unapologetically, even while they doubt, even while they whisper, even while they laugh. Because when destiny calls, hesitation is the only true failure. So let me ask you, are you ready to step into the unknown? Are you ready to walk a path no one else around you dares to walk? Are you ready to carry the weight of being different, knowing it is also the weight of greatness? Because the time is now. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. And once you make that decision, everything will shift. The resistance will intensify, yes, but so will the power within you. The road will get narrower, yes, but the light will get brighter. And as you walk further, you will begin to see what you were truly created for. You will begin to feel the fire of destiny rise so strong within you that you'll never again wish to be ordinary. Because once you taste destiny, mediocrity will never satisfy you again. When destiny calls, it doesn't knock politely. It breaks the silence inside you with a roar that cannot be ignored. You've felt it already, haven't you? That pull that keeps you awake at night. The visions that flash across your mind. The feeling that you're standing on the edge of something greater than yourself. That's not imagination. That's not wishful thinking. That's the undeniable whisper of the divine reminding you, you were never meant for ordinary. But here's the unsettling truth. The moment you start to walk toward that greater purpose, opposition rises. You've already seen it. The more you step into yourself, the more people seem to distance themselves. The stronger your confidence grows, the louder their criticisms become. The more you shine, the more shadows swarm. And that's not coincidence. It's confirmation. Darkness always resists light. Chains always rattle when freedom approaches. And when you finally step into your calling, the world will react, because the world knows it cannot contain you anymore. And let me ask you something piercing. Why do you think people who never cared about you suddenly pay attention when you start to grow? Why do you think your silence is questioned? Your moves are analyzed, your choices are judged. It's because deep down, they sense you're becoming unstoppable. They fear your evolution because your growth exposes their stagnation. Every step you take forward reminds them of the steps they've refused to take. And instead of rising with you, they try to pull you back. But you cannot go back. Not now. Not after everything you've endured just to get here. Here's the twist, they can't stop you even if they try. They can spread lies, but truth will rise. They can plot against you, but destiny cannot be sabotaged. They can reject you, but rejection is just redirection. Every scheme, every weapon, every attempt to break you will fail, because your life carries a shield they cannot pierce. You've seen it already. You've survived things that should have destroyed you, endured storms that should have drowned you, risen from wounds that should have ended you. And if the fire hasn't consumed you yet, it never will. But listen carefully. Just because they can't stop you doesn't mean the road will be easy. Chosen ones walk a narrow path. It's not paved with comfort, but with challenges. It's not lined with applause, but with silence. It's not crowded, but lonely. And yet, it is the only road worth walking, because this path leads to transformation. Not just for you, but for everyone connected to your life. That's the part most people don't understand. Your calling is bigger than you. Every time you rise, someone else finds the courage to rise. Every time you speak truth, someone else breaks free from lies. Every time you refuse to quit, someone else discovers their own strength. That's why your existence is such a threat. Because you don't just carry yourself, you carry others. And the enemy, the system, the world, whatever you call it, knows this. That's why the attacks have always been heavier on you. That's why you've suffered in silence while others live carelessly. That's why the weight on your shoulders has felt unbearable at times. Because what you're carrying isn't just your own life. It's the blueprint for others to follow. But here's where things shift. The very things that were designed to break you are actually building you. Every rejection is making you stronger. Every betrayal is sharpening your discernment. Every failure is teaching you resilience. Every loss is clearing space for something greater. And one day soon, you will look back and realize nothing was wasted. Every tear, every sleepless night, every lonely road. It was all shaping you for the moment you're stepping into now. And let me hit you with this truth. You cannot keep pretending you don't feel the shift. You cannot keep denying the fire inside you. You cannot keep burying your dreams under the weight of fear. Because the more you deny it, the heavier it gets. That restlessness, that dissatisfaction, that hunger. It will only grow until you finally surrender. And when you surrender, you'll discover the peace you've been searching for all along. Not the peace of blending in, not the peace of silence, but the peace of knowing you are walking in alignment with why you were created. Think of it this way. Imagine a lion trying to live as a sheep. Imagine the frustration, the restlessness, the constant sense that something is wrong. That's what it feels like when a chosen one tries to live as ordinary. You cannot hide who you are forever. Eventually, the roar will break free, and when it does, nothing can silence it. But here's the part that will make your spirit burn. You've only tasted the beginning of who you are. Everything you've experienced so far has been training ground, preparation, rehearsal. The battles you've fought, the lessons you've learned, the strength you've built. All of it was laying the foundation for what's coming. You haven't even fully stepped into your power yet. The world has seen glimpses, but the full version of you hasn't arrived. And when it does, everything around you will shift. So here's my challenge. Stop waiting. Stop doubting. Stop hiding. The world may not be ready for you, but you can't wait for their permission. You weren't chosen to wait, you were chosen to move. And every moment you delay, someone else is waiting for the breakthrough only you can bring. That's how important you are. That's how urgent your calling is. That's why you've been set apart, misunderstood, rejected, because the world has been trying to silence the very thing it desperately needs. And listen, when you finally rise, when you finally embrace who you are, when you finally walk boldly in your calling, you'll realize something powerful. They knew it all along. Every glare, every whisper, every attempt to cut you down. It was their way of saying, we see it. We see the difference. We see the fire. We see the greatness. They may never say it out loud, but deep in their spirit they knew. And they were afraid of it. But fear is not your problem to carry. Your only responsibility is to keep rising, keep shining, keep walking. Because the path ahead is not just about surviving, it's about conquering. And everything that has tried to hold you back is about to watch you ascend. The world doesn't have to approve you. They don't even have to understand you. But they will witness you. And when they do, every doubt they threw at you will turn into silent proof of what was always true. You were never one of them, because you were always destined to be greater. And here's the truth you've always felt but could never quite name. Their world is not your world. Their values are not your values. What excites them leaves you empty. What empties them often fills you. They live for surface approval, you breathe for something deeper. They crave control, you crave freedom. And this contrast has always made you stand out even in a crowd where everyone looks the same. That's why people stare longer than they should. That's why conversations with you feel heavier than with anyone else. And that's why, even when you've tried your hardest to blend in, you never really disappear. They know. They sense it. And that silent knowing is what unsettles them most. You carry something invisible, something words can barely describe. A vibration, a force, a pull. Some would call it light, others would call it energy, but it's more than both. It's the mark of someone who doesn't belong to the patterns around them. The chosen ones walk differently, even when they try to mimic others. Their silence feels different. Their laughter feels different. Their presence shifts rooms, like an unseen wind brushing past the surface of reality. And here's the part that will haunt those who are near you. Once someone has encountered a chosen one, they cannot forget it. Even if they never see you again, your presence lingers in their memory like a burn mark. That's why people from your past randomly resurface, checking on you, watching you from afar. They can't explain it, but something in them is still unsettled from the day they crossed paths with you. Now let's pause for a moment. If what I'm saying resonates, if it feels like I'm pulling words out of your very soul, don't just sit quietly. Pause this video and hit the like button, because that act alone signals you're aligning with a truth meant for you. This isn't coincidence. This isn't entertainment. This is a reminder you were supposed to hear right now, so claim it by acknowledging it. The world has always feared those who carry what you carry, and not because you're dangerous in the way they understand, but because your very existence exposes the emptiness of their illusions. The systems they built, the rules they worship, the games they force others to play, all of it feels weak when you stand in the room. You don't even have to say anything. Your very presence makes people question why they're doing what they're doing. That's why bosses fear you. That's why fake friends avoid you. That's why authority figures often clash with you. It's not rebellion. It's resonance. You vibrate outside of their system, so they scramble to bring you back in. They can't name it, so they label it as arrogance, stubbornness, or misfit behavior. But inside, they know it's something else, something that cannot be controlled. Have you noticed how people sometimes project their insecurities onto you without reason? How they accuse you of things you never did, or judge you for thoughts you never had? That's not accident. That's their fear trying to rewrite reality in their favor. They feel something in you they cannot match, so instead of admitting it, they flip it back on you. They'd rather call you strange than admit you're strong. They'd rather call you lost than admit you're awake. They'd rather call you dangerous than admit you're free. And the irony is, they'll do all of this while secretly being drawn to you, unable to let go of the very energy they claim to reject. It's the paradox of being chosen, feared and admired at the same time, rejected and sought after in the same breath. But here's what you must understand. You were not born to convince them. You were not born to shrink until they feel comfortable. You were not born to beg for acceptance in a place that already trembles at your presence. You were born to carry this fire without apology. The reason they know you're not one of them is because the fire inside you will not let you become one of them. Every time you've tried, something inside rebels. Every time you've thought about giving in, life reminds you of who you are. You've been chosen because you cannot betray yourself, no matter how tempting the illusion of belonging might feel. And yet, it's this very tension that prepares you for the path ahead. Because only those who endure the loneliness of being misunderstood can hold the strength required to lead. Only those who know what it's like to walk alone can guide others through their own wilderness. Only those who've been alienated can truly understand the hunger for belonging. That's why you've been set apart, not as punishment, but as preparation. What feels like isolation is actually insulation. You are being protected while your power matures, because the world cannot handle its full force yet. But deep down, even in their denial, they know. That's why they treat you the way they do. That's why you never blend in. That's why your life feels like a movie others can't stop watching, even if they pretend not to care. Think about it. How many times have you overheard whispers about you that no one thought you'd hear? How many times have people's eyes followed you when you walked away? How many times have strangers acted familiar with you, like they've known you forever, even though you've never met? These are not random. These are signals. Signals that you radiate something beyond explanation. And those signals create ripples. Ripples that make others uncomfortable, curious, sometimes even obsessed. You can try to ignore it, but it won't go away. You can try to downplay it, but the energy won't shrink. The truth is out, whether you acknowledge it or not. They know you're not one of them. And as this realization spreads, something else is happening behind the scenes. Opportunities begin to align. Doors others can't see start to open. Divine connections begin to form, often in ways that defy logic. The same world that rejects you also secretly clears a path for you. And when the timing is right, those who doubted you will have no choice but to watch as you step into the place you were always meant to be. Their rejection, their suspicion, their whispers. All of it becomes irrelevant once the truth can no longer be hidden. Because when a chosen one rises, no one can deny it. They can pretend to laugh with you, they can sit at your table, they can even share secrets that make you think you belong. But deep down, there is always that invisible wall. They feel it. You feel it. It's not something you can explain in words, but it's always there, whispering in the background. You're not one of them. And that whisper grows louder every time you step further into your truth. It's like the divine carved a line in the sand long before you were born, and no matter how much you try to cross over, you can't. And the truth is, you're not supposed to, because what lives on the other side isn't yours. It never was. That's why you've always been treated differently. It's why you could walk into a room and instantly feel the shift in energy. People laugh a little louder, pretend a little harder, change their tone around you because they can't help it. They're reacting to what you carry. They don't see it with their eyes, but their spirits feel it. And when a spirit recognizes a force it doesn't understand, it does one of two things. It either tries to suppress it or it tries to distance itself from it. That's why some have betrayed you. That's why others have disappeared without warning. It was never personal, it was spiritual. They didn't walk away from you. They walked away from the truth that burns inside of you. A truth they can't match. A truth they fear will expose what they lack. Think about it. How many times did you shrink yourself just to make others comfortable? How many times did you downplay your vision, your wisdom, your very light because you could feel their unease? You've been playing small, trying to blend in, when you were never designed to blend. You were designed to break patterns, to shift atmospheres, to stir things in people that they'd rather keep buried. And when that happens, it makes them restless. It makes them nervous. They know there's something about you they can't box in or explain away, and that terrifies them. Now let's pause for a moment. If what I'm saying resonates, if it feels like I'm pulling words out of your very soul, don't just sit quietly. Pause this video and hit the like button, because that act alone signals you're aligning with a truth meant for you. This isn't coincidence. This isn't entertainment. This is a reminder you were supposed to hear right now, so claim it by acknowledging it. The world has always feared those who carry what you carry, and not because you're dangerous in the way they understand, but because your very existence exposes the emptiness of their illusions. The systems they built, the rules they worship, the games they force others to play, all of it feels weak when you stand in the room. You don't even have to say anything. Your very presence makes people question why they're doing what they're doing. That's why bosses fear you. That's why fake friends avoid you. That's why authority figures often clash with you. It's not rebellion. It's resonance. You vibrate outside of their system, so they scramble to bring you back in. They can't name it, so they label it as arrogance, stubbornness, or misfit behavior. But inside, they know it's something else, something that cannot be controlled. Have you noticed how people sometimes project their insecurities onto you without reason? How they accuse you of things you never did, or judge you for thoughts you never had? That's not accident. That's their fear trying to rewrite reality in their favor. They feel something in you they cannot match, so instead of admitting it, they flip it back on you. They'd rather call you strange than admit you're strong. They'd rather call you lost than admit you're awake. They'd rather call you dangerous than admit you're free. And the irony is, they'll do all of this while secretly being drawn to you, unable to let go of the very energy they claim to reject. It's the paradox of being chosen, feared and admired at the same time, rejected and sought after in the same breath. But here's what you must understand. You were not born to convince them. You were not born to shrink until they feel comfortable. You were not born to beg for acceptance in a place that already trembles at your presence. You were born to carry this fire without apology. The reason they know you're not one of them is because the fire inside you will not let you become one of them. Every time you've tried, something inside rebels. Every time you've thought about giving in, life reminds you of who you are. You've been chosen because you cannot betray yourself, no matter how tempting the illusion of belonging might feel. And yet, it's this very tension that prepares you for the path ahead. Because only those who endure the loneliness of being misunderstood can hold the strength required to lead. Only those who know what it's like to walk alone can guide others through their own wilderness. Only those who've been alienated can truly understand the hunger for belonging. That's why you've been set apart, not as punishment, but as preparation. What feels like isolation is actually insulation. You are being protected while your power matures, because the world cannot handle its full force yet. But deep down, even in their denial, they know. That's why they treat you the way they do. That's why you never blend in. That's why your life feels like a movie others can't stop watching, even if they pretend not to care. Think about it. How many times have you overheard whispers about you that no one thought you'd hear? How many times have people's eyes followed you when you walked away? How many times have strangers acted familiar with you, like they've known you forever, even though you've never met? These are not random. These are signals. Signals that you radiate something beyond explanation. And those signals create ripples. Ripples that make others uncomfortable, curious, sometimes even obsessed. You can try to ignore it, but it won't go away. You can try to downplay it, but the energy won't shrink. The truth is out, whether you acknowledge it or not. They know you're not one of them. And as this realization spreads, something else is happening behind the scenes. Opportunities begin to align. Doors others can't see start to open. Divine connections begin to form, often in ways that defy logic. The same world that rejects you also secretly clears a path for you. And when the timing is right, those who doubted you will have no choice but to watch as you step into the place you were always meant to be. Their rejection, their suspicion, their whispers. All of it becomes irrelevant once the truth can no longer be hidden. Because when a chosen one rises, no one can deny it. They can pretend to laugh with you, they can sit at your table, they can even share secrets that make you think you belong. But deep down, there is always that invisible wall. They feel it. You feel it. It's not something you can explain in words, but it's always there, whispering in the background. You're not one of them. And that whisper grows louder every time you step further into your truth. It's like the divine carved a line in the sand long before you were born, and no matter how much you try to cross over, you can't. And the truth is, you're not supposed to, because what lives on the other side isn't yours. It never was. That's why you've always been treated differently. That's why you could walk into a room and instantly feel the shift in energy. People laugh a little louder, pretend a little harder, change their tone around you because they can't help it. They're reacting to what you carry. They don't see it with their eyes, but their spirits feel it. And when a spirit recognizes a force it doesn't understand, it does one of two things. It either tries to suppress it or it tries to distance itself from it. That's why some have betrayed you. That's why others have disappeared without warning. It was never personal, it was spiritual. They didn't walk away from you. They walked away from the truth that burns inside of you. A truth they can't match. A truth they fear will expose what they lack. Think about it. How many times did you shrink yourself just to make others comfortable? How many times did you downplay your vision, your wisdom, your very light because you could feel their unease? You've been playing small, trying to blend in, when you were never designed to blend. You were designed to break patterns, to shift atmospheres, to stir things in people that they'd rather keep buried. And when that happens, it makes them restless. It makes them nervous. They know there's something about you they can't box in or explain away, and that terrifies them. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They admire you. They study you. They watch the way you move, the way you stand alone and yet carry more strength than an entire crowd. They gossip about you not because you're weak, but because you're a mirror. You reflect everything they've suppressed, every dream they abandoned, every ounce of authenticity they traded for approval. When you walk in truth, you expose their lies. When you walk in freedom, you expose their chains. That's why they whisper, why they roll their eyes, why they call you different with that mocking tone. But behind closed doors, they wish they had what you carry. They wish they could stand as boldly as you do. They wish they could live unshaken. Pause for a moment and let this sink in. If you weren't carrying something powerful, why would they react so strongly to you? If you were truly nothing, they'd treat you like nothing. But they don't. They notice you. They react to you. They're drawn to you and repelled by you at the same time. That's proof enough that you're set apart. And maybe you've wondered why the loneliness feels so heavy. Maybe you've cried out, asking why you can't just have normal connections, why relationships slip through your fingers, why people come close but never stay. Let me tell you why. It's because God refuses to let you settle in circles that would dilute your fire. The rejection you felt was not a punishment. It was protection. You think you lost them, but in reality you were spared. Imagine if you had stayed in their company, soaking in their limited vision, breathing in their toxic patterns, shrinking more and more just to fit in. You would have lost yourself completely. But the divine said no. The divine said you cannot stay where your soul is suffocating. You cannot dwell where your spirit is being silenced. That's why every time you try to go back, it feels wrong. That's why every time you try to cling to what once was, it crumbles. You're not meant to go back, you're meant to rise. And rising means leaving behind what refuses to grow with you. And here's the twist. Deep down, they know it too. They know you're ascending, they know you're moving into a place they can't follow, and it makes them restless. They might not have the words for it, but they feel it. That's why they test you. That's why they try to drag you into arguments, into gossip, into drama. They want to see if they can pull you back into their level, because if they can, it soothes their insecurity. But when you refuse to bite, when you keep rising, when you stay silent instead of stooping low, it rattles them. Because it confirms what they feared all along. You're not one of them. And the world will keep trying to label you. They'll call you arrogant. They'll call you strange. They'll say you think you're better than everyone else. But let's be clear, you don't think you're better. You simply know you're different. You know your assignment isn't like theirs. You know your path won't look like theirs. And when you refuse to water yourself down, it looks like arrogance to those who have never known authenticity. But let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Because your truth isn't up for debate, it's up for demonstration. The time is coming when the very ones who mocked you will need what you carry. The same mouths that gossiped will speak your name with respect. The same people who turned their backs will circle back, trying to draw from the well you've been digging in silence. And when that time comes, you'll know it was all worth it. Every lonely night, every broken friendship, every misunderstood moment. It was all shaping you for the role you were born to play. Don't you see? The reason you're not like them is because you were called to lead them. Not by force, not by begging for their attention, but by walking so deeply in your truth that it shakes them awake. You weren't placed here to be accepted. You were placed here to be remembered. You're not here to echo their voices. You're here to carry the frequency of a higher realm, a sound this world cannot ignore. And that's why you can't quit now. That's why you can't let the loneliness convince you you're broken. You're not broken, you're chosen. And every tear you've cried was watering the soil of your destiny. Every closed door was redirecting you to the one that truly belongs to you. Every loss was clearing space for the gain that will blow your mind. They may not see it yet, but they will. And when they do, they'll realize what you already know: you were never one of them because you were always something more. And when you walk into a room, notice how the air itself feels different. It's not arrogance, it's resonance. Their energy cannot remain steady around you because your frequency unsettles their illusions. You may have thought people disliked you for no reason, but in truth, they sense you carry something they cannot control. They hide it behind smirks, whispers, or even fake smiles. But the truth is, their spirit is alarmed. And the reason is simple. They know you're not one of them. You were never designed to fit into their boxes, to dance to their rhythms, or to bow to their fragile hierarchies. Your presence threatens their comfort. Your authenticity disturbs their masks. And your truth dismantles their lies. That's why you often feel misunderstood, singled out, or left alone, because deep down, they recognize your soul does not belong to their world. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from conversations feeling drained, like your energy was stolen, while they smiled as if victorious? That's because they cannot create what you carry. They can only consume it. And they do so because they know the value of what you hold, even if they pretend not to. Let this sink in. Your silence intimidates them more than their noise intimidates you. Your stillness speaks louder than their chaos, and your restraint carries more authority than their outbursts ever could. This is why they project their fears onto you, calling you strange, too different, too intense, or even too much. But in reality, they're not rejecting you. They're revealing their recognition that you don't belong to their design. Pause for a moment and imagine how much energy they spend trying to convince you that you're ordinary. If you were truly one of them, they wouldn't need to work so hard to diminish you. They wouldn't need to gather together to talk about you. They wouldn't need to throw shade at your name. But they do because their spirits know something their minds cannot articulate. They feel your light pressing against their shadows. They feel your presence reminding them of what they've buried within themselves. And instead of confronting their truth, they push against yours. Now let's pause for a moment. If what I'm saying resonates, if it feels like I'm pulling words out of your very soul, don't just sit quietly. Pause this video and hit the like button, because that act alone signals you're aligning with a truth meant for you. This isn't coincidence. This isn't entertainment. This is a reminder you were supposed to hear right now, so claim it by acknowledging it. The world has always feared those who carry what you carry, and not because you're dangerous in the way they understand, but because your very existence exposes the emptiness of their illusions. The systems they built, the rules they worship, the games they force others to play, all of it feels weak when you stand in the room. You don't even have to say anything. Your very presence makes people question why they're doing what they're doing. That's why bosses fear you. That's why fake friends avoid you. That's why authority figures often clash with you. It's not rebellion. It's resonance. You vibrate outside of their system, so they scramble to bring you back in. They can't name it, so they label it as arrogance, stubbornness, or misfit behavior. But inside, they know it's something else, something that cannot be controlled. Have you noticed how people sometimes project their insecurities onto you without reason? How they accuse you of things you never did, or judge you for thoughts you never had? That's not accident. That's their fear trying to rewrite reality in their favor. They feel something in you they cannot match, so instead of admitting it, they flip it back on you. They'd rather call you strange than admit you're strong. They'd rather call you lost than admit you're awake. They'd rather call you dangerous than admit you're free. And the irony is, they'll do all of this while secretly being drawn to you, unable to let go of the very energy they claim to reject. It's the paradox of being chosen, feared and admired at the same time, rejected and sought after in the same breath. But here's what you must understand. You were not born to convince them. You were not born to shrink until they feel comfortable. You were not born to beg for acceptance in a place that already trembles at your presence. You were born to carry this fire without apology. The reason they know you're not one of them is because the fire inside you will not let you become one of them. Every time you've tried, something inside rebels. Every time you've thought about giving in, life reminds you of who you are. You've been chosen because you cannot betray yourself, no matter how tempting the illusion of belonging might feel. And yet, it's this very tension that prepares you for the path ahead. Because only those who endure the loneliness of being misunderstood can hold the strength required to lead. Only those who know what it's like to walk alone can guide others through their own wilderness. Only those who've been alienated can truly understand the hunger for belonging. That's why you've been set apart, not as punishment, but as preparation. What feels like isolation is actually insulation. You are being protected while your power matures, because the world cannot handle its full force yet. But deep down, even in their denial, they know. That's why they treat you the way they do. That's why you never blend in. That's why your life feels like a movie others can't stop watching, even if they pretend not to care. Think about it. How many times have you overheard whispers about you that no one thought you'd hear? How many times have people's eyes followed you when you walked away? How many times have strangers acted familiar with you, like they've known you forever, even though you've never met? These are not random. These are signals. Signals that you radiate something beyond explanation. And those signals create ripples. Ripples that make others uncomfortable, curious, sometimes even obsessed. You can try to ignore it, but it won't go away. You can try to downplay it, but the energy won't shrink. The truth is out, whether you acknowledge it or not. They know you're not one of them. And as this realization spreads, something else is happening behind the scenes. Opportunities begin to align. Doors others can't see start to open. Divine connections begin to form, often in ways that defy logic. The same world that rejects you also secretly clears a path for you. And when the timing is right, those who doubted you will have no choice but to watch as you step into the place you were always meant to be. Their rejection, their suspicion, their whispers. All of it becomes irrelevant once the truth can no longer be hidden. Because when a chosen one rises, no one can deny it. They can pretend to laugh with you, they can sit at your table, they can even share secrets that make you think you belong. But deep down, there is always that invisible wall. They feel it. You feel it. It's not something you can explain in words, but it's always there, whispering in the background. You're not one of them. And that whisper grows louder every time you step further into your truth. It's like the divine carved a line in the sand long before you were born, and no matter how much you try to cross over, you can't. And the truth is, you're not supposed to, because what lives on the other side isn't yours. It never was. That's why you've always been treated differently. That's why you could walk into a room and instantly feel the shift in energy. People laugh a little louder, pretend a little harder, change their tone around you because they can't help it. They're reacting to what you carry. They don't see it with their eyes, but their spirits feel it. And when a spirit recognizes a force it doesn't understand, it does one of two things. It either tries to suppress it or it tries to distance itself from it. That's why some have betrayed you. That's why others have disappeared without warning. It was never personal, it was spiritual. They didn't walk away from you. They walked away from the truth that burns inside of you. A truth they can't match. A truth they fear will expose what they lack. Think about it. How many times did you shrink yourself just to make others comfortable? How many times did you downplay your vision, your wisdom, your very light because you could feel their unease? You've been playing small, trying to blend in, when you were never designed to blend. You were designed to break patterns, to shift atmospheres, to stir things in people that they'd rather keep buried. And when that happens, it makes them restless. It makes them nervous. They know there's something about you they can't box in or explain away, and that terrifies them. But here's the paradox: the more they try to exclude you, the more set apart you become. Their rejection was never meant to break you. It was meant to confirm your distinction. Every slammed door, every turned back, every whispered rumor has been a divine announcement. You are not one of them. You never will be. And that truth, though heavy at times, is the very thing that has kept you safe. For if you had blended in, you would have been consumed. If you had hidden your light, you would have been lost in their darkness. If you had walked their path, you would have forgotten who you were created to be. And so, when you wonder why your relationships crumble, why your friendships dissolve, why your connections fracture, remember this. The divine does not allow permanence with people who cannot handle your essence. You were not meant to build forever in places that were only designed for your passing. That ache in your chest, that longing for belonging, has been misinterpreted. You don't need to belong to them. You need to belong to yourself, to your calling, to your Creator's vision for your life. And once you anchor yourself in that truth, their acceptance becomes irrelevant. Let me ask you something bold. What would happen if you finally stopped trying to be understood? What if you accepted that being misunderstood is the mark of your identity? Think of every great soul who came before you, every revolutionary, every visionary, every prophet, every pioneer. None of them were embraced in the beginning. Most of them were rejected, laughed at, doubted, and even persecuted. Why? Because they weren't one of them. They were chosen. And chosen ones always disturb the normal order before they establish the new one. So, stop mourning what you've lost and start embracing what's been revealed. Every time they've told you that you don't fit, it was really life whispering that you were made for something they cannot comprehend. Every time they pulled away, it was life carving the space for those who will truly see you. Every tear, every lonely night, every silent battle has been part of your separation process. The refining fire that prepares chosen ones for their purpose. And the more you resist it, the longer the cycle repeats. But when you embrace it, when you step fully into the reality that you were never meant to be like them, suddenly the loneliness becomes confirmation, the rejection becomes protection, and the misunderstanding becomes power. And here's the deeper truth: they may never admit it, but they already know who you are. That's why they respond to you the way they do. That's why they watch you in silence, why they study you from afar, why they copy pieces of you while mocking the whole of you. They know even if they can't put it into words. And though they'll never say it to your face, they fear the truth that your existence makes their illusions tremble. Now let me push this further. What happens when you stop fearing being different and start living as if being different was your destiny? What happens when you walk into every space knowing they already sense it, they already feel it, they already know you're not one of them? Something shifts. Your energy ceases to chase approval. Your spirit rises above the noise. And suddenly, the same people who tried to break you are forced to witness what they could never stop. That is the moment of awakening. That is the moment when the chosen one stops questioning why and starts declaring who. And if you're listening right now, it means you've reached that threshold. The place where you stop asking, "Why don't they accept me?" and start saying, "I was never meant to be accepted by them." Because the moment you grasp that truth, you unlock your freedom. The world around you may not understand, but deep down they know. And now, so do you. You've felt the sting of their whispers behind closed doors, the quiet conversations that stop the moment you walk in. You've noticed the way their eyes shift, the way their tone changes, the way they try to conceal something that deep down they can't hide from you. They know. They've always known. And the truth is, it terrifies them. Because you are not like them. You never have been. And no matter how much they try to pull you down into their world of conformity, something inside you keeps rising, higher and higher, beyond their reach. The chosen one does not blend in, not because they choose to rebel, but because their very essence is different. Your presence disrupts the illusions they've built their lives upon. While they strive to fit in, you naturally stand out. While they seek comfort in the crowd, you find clarity in solitude. And though they may never say it out loud, every fiber of their being is aware that you walk with something divine. Something they cannot touch, no matter how hard they try. Have you noticed how they try to label you, define you, box you in? They say you're too much or too different. But that is simply their way of trying to make sense of what they cannot understand. They will call you strange, arrogant, even dangerous. But the truth is, you carry light in a place where shadows thrive. And when light enters a dark room, it doesn't ask permission. It exposes everything. That's why they avoid you. That's why they betray you. That's why they whisper about you. It's not hatred, it's fear. Fear of what they see in you. Fear of what they see in themselves when they're around you. And here's the paradox that will always haunt them. The very people who push you away are also the ones who can't take their eyes off you. They watch you. They study you. They mimic you in silence. Because deep down, they long for what you have. They crave the freedom you carry, the strength you embody, the connection you live by. But instead of admitting that truth, they hide it under layers of envy and projection. They mock you outwardly, but inwardly they wonder, what would it feel like to be like you? Pause for a moment and think, why is it that even when you try to walk quietly, your steps seem louder than everyone else's? Why is it that when you enter a room, the energy shifts even if you say nothing at all? That's not coincidence. That's not imagination. That is the signature of someone marked, someone chosen. You carry an unseen force that alters atmospheres. You don't even need to speak for others to sense it. And though some will be drawn to it, many will resist it because it forces them to confront what they've buried deep within. The ones who gossip about you will never admit this, but their words are a disguise for fascination. The ones who betrayed you, who turned their back when you needed them most, are the same ones who still keep tabs on you in silence. They watch your progress, they compare themselves to you, they measure their worth against yours. Because once someone encounters the chosen, they can never forget it. You become an echo in their lives, a reminder of what they could be but are too afraid to become. And here's where the story shifts. The more they try to exclude isolation they try to trap you in has become your greatest strength. Their rejection was never meant to break you. The silence, it was meant to confirm your distinction. It didn't break you. Every slammed door, While they gathered in groups to comfort one another in mediocrity, divine announcement, you were being sharpened alone. You are not one of them. While they sought validation from the crowd, and that truth, you found confirmation from the divine, is the very thing that has kept you realizing it. For if you had blended above them, you would have been consumed, not by titles, if you had hidden your light, but by inner strength, resilience, dark and clarity. If you had walked their path, what this you would have forgotten who you were created to be. It means you no longer need their approval. So, when you wonder why your relationships crumble, you no longer bow to their standards. Why your connections fracture. Path was never meant to be judged by them in the first place. The divine does not allow your path is ancient who cannot handle sacred, your essence. Eternal. You were not meant to build forever in places that were only designed for your passing. This is why doors close in your face only to redirect you to ones you never imagined. This is why people exit your life. You don't need to belong to them, leaving you confused. You need to belong to yourself. But later you realize it was to your Creator's vision for your life. This is why every time they try to bury you, you rose even higher. Their acceptance because chosen ones cannot be destroyed by human hands. Let me ask you something bold. You are what would happen if you finally stopped them and they know it? They may not say it, but deep inside, being misunderstood is the mark of your identity. So when you feel that tension in the air, think of every great soul who came before you. Don't every revolutionary, don't dim your light to make them more comfortable. Every prophet, don't apologize for being set apart. None of them were embraced. You were never designed to blend in. Most of them were rejected. You were never called to walk their path, doubted, you are the interruption in their illusion. Why? Because they weren't one of their false foundations. They were chosen. The living chosen ones there is more to life than the shallow games they play. And if you ever doubt your place, so remember this. Stop mourning what you've lost. Look at the way the world responds to what's been revealed. Look at the jealousy. Every time they've told you that you don't fit, the stares, it was really life whispering that you were made for something they cannot comprehend. Evidence. Every time they pulled away, see what you carry. It was life carving even when you can't always see it truly see you. Evidence every that tear, deep inside, every lonely night, they know you're not one. Every silent battle. But here's the real secret: separation. They can't stop watching you. The refining because your story is unfolding chosen ways they can't predict. And whether they admit it or not, the longer the part of them knows that one day, but when you embrace back and realize when you step fully into the reality that you were never meant to be like them, and by then it will be too late. Suddenly the loneliness because while they were doubting you, the rejection becomes protection. While they were mocking you, the misunderstanding becomes power. While they were ignoring you, you were aligning with destiny. And the further you go, the clearer it will become. That's why they respond to you the way they do. That you were never meant to be. That's why they watch you in silence. You were meant to be the one who breaks you from afar. The one who rises pieces of you while the one who walks where few dare to walk. They know even if they never told you the real reason they keep their distance. And though they'll never say it to your face, why their laughter feels forced, they fear the truth that your existence makes their illusion suddenly grows heavy. Now let me push this further. Undeniable. What happens when you stop? They know you are not one. Start living as if being different was your destiny. They know you carry something they cannot explain. What happens when you walk into every space the very foundations of the roles they already feel it. They already know you're not one of them. They cannot look at you without feeling a strange reminder of what they've lost within themselves. Your spirit rises as though you're too much, too different, suddenly, too intense. The same people who tried to break you are forced to witness what they could never stop. You are a mirror they cannot bear to look into. Have you ever noticed when the chosen one claimed to understand you suddenly became restless when you spoke your truth? And if you're listening right now, it means you've reached that threshold. The place where you always betray a flicker of discomfort. Why don't they accept me? Like you've revealed something they tried hard to bury. I was never meant to be accepted by them. It's because you disrupt their illusion. Because the moment you grasp that truth, walls of normal freedom. The world around you may not understand, but when you enter the picture, those walls tremble. And now, so do you. You don't even have to try. The sting of their whispers behind closed doors. You were born to bring disruption quiet to conversations that stop the moment you walk in. And they can feel it in their bones. You've noticed the way their eyes shift. The way their tone changes. Have you ever wondered why you could never fully belong? Deep down they can't hide from. No matter how hard you tried. They've always even in groups that seemed like home. The truth is, there was always that edge because you are not you were like standing slightly apart, you never watching, feeling, and no matter how much they try to pull you down into their world of conformity, it's recognition. Something inside you, the universe set you apart higher and higher. If you had blended in, the chosen one does not blend in. Your voice because they choose to rebel, your fire smothered, but because their very essence is different. And you know that somewhere deep inside, your presence disrupts you would have betrayed yourself if you had stayed where you didn't fit. While they hear something they'll never admit, you naturally stand out. They envy you. While they seek comfort they won't say it out loud. You find clarity in solitude. They'll cover it with criticism, though they may never say it out loud, with subtle digs every fiber of their being is aware behind it all there's something divine. Because you dare to be what they never allowed themselves to be. Have you noticed how they try to label you, dare to stand alone, box you in? You dare to listen to that inner voice when they buried theirs years ago. But that is simply their way of trying to make sense of what they cannot understand. It's not rejection, it's confirmation. They will call you strange. You are walking proof that courage exists. but
and
the
your
truth
very
is,
existence
you carry
challenges
light
the lives
in a place
they
where
settle
shadows
for.
thrive.
Pause for a
And
second
when light
and
enters
realize
a
how
dark
powerful
room,
that
it doesn't
is.
ask permission.
Think about all the
It
nights you
exposes
cried,
everything.
all the moments
That's why
you
they
begged for
avoid
belonging.
you. That's
all
why
the
they
times
betray
you questioned
you.
why you were
That's
different.
why they whisper
What
about
if the
you.
very thing
It's
that
not
hurt
hatred,
you was
it's
the proof
fear.
of your calling?
Fear of what they
if your
see in you.
isolation was never
Fear of
punishment
what they
but
see in
divine
themselves
preparation?
when they're around you.
Let that sink
And
in.
here's the paradox,
because when
that
you
will
start
always
to understand this, the very
everything
people who push
changes.
you away are
You
also
stop
the
chasing
ones who
people
can't take
who
their
were
eyes
never
off
meant
you.
to understand
They watch you.
You
They
stop
study
apologizing
you.
for
They
being
mimic
too much,
you in silence,
for feeling too
because
deeply,
deep down they
for
long
knowing
for
too
what
clearly.
you have.
Instead,
They crave
you
the
start
freedom
to
you
rise.
carry, but here's the
strength
part
you
they don't
embody,
want you to realize:
the connection you live by.
The moment you fully
But
step
instead of
into this
admitting
truth,
that truth,
they lose their
they
power
hide it
over
under
you.
layers of
Their
envy
whispers,
and projection.
their sideways
They mock
glances,
you outwardly,
their
but
judgment.
inwardly they wonder,
They all
what would
fall
it feel
flat
like
when
to
you
be
know
like
who you are.
Pause for
They
a
can't
moment
shame
and think,
you back into
why
silence.
is it that even when
They
you try
can't
to
lure
walk
you
quietly,
into conformity.
your steps seem
They
louder
can't
than
trick you
everyone
into
else's?
thinking you're broken.
Why is it that
You
when
are
you
not
enter
broken.
a room,
You
the
are
energy
chosen.
shifts even
And
if you say
chosen
nothing
ones
at
don't
all?
need permission
That's not
to shine.
coincidence. That's not imagination. That is the signature of someone marked, someone chosen. You carry an unseen force that alters atmospheres. You don't even need to speak for others to sense it. And though some will be drawn to it, many will resist it because it forces them to confront what they've buried deep within. The ones who gossip about you will never admit this, but their words are a disguise for fascination. The ones who betrayed you, who turned their back when you needed them most, are the same ones who still keep tabs on you in silence. They watch your progress, they compare themselves to you, they measure their worth against yours. Because once someone encounters the chosen, they can never forget it. You become an echo in their lives, a reminder of what they could be but are too afraid to become. Now, understand this, the road ahead isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about embracing the very qualities they tried to shame you for. Your sensitivity is not weakness. It's your radar, your intuition, your divine compass. Your intensity is not too much, it's fuel, fire, uncontainable purpose. Your solitude is not emptiness. It's your sanctuary, where clarity finds you and the universe whispers secrets only you are meant to hear. And yes, you will continue to stand out. You will continue to make people uncomfortable. You will continue to stir questions in the hearts of those who cross your path. But that's not a curse. It's your gift. Think about it. Every revolution, every movement, every breakthrough began with someone who refused to blend in. Someone who was willing to be seen as strange, difficult, or dangerous, simply because they carried a vision too big for the crowd to comprehend. That's you. That has always been you. So the question becomes, will you keep holding back, waiting for their approval, waiting for their acceptance? Or will you finally let go of the weight of their eyes and step fully into who you are? Because the moment you do, the chains of loneliness will turn into the wings of freedom. And suddenly, you'll see that you were never alone. You were simply walking a road fewer dared to travel. Now, here's where it gets even more powerful. When you step into that fullness, you don't just change your life, you ignite something in others. Yes, even the ones who doubted you, rejected you, envied you. Some of them will watch you rise and secretly find the courage to question their own lives. Some of them will see your glow and realize they've been living in shadows. And even though they may never admit it, you'll have shifted something inside them forever. This is why you were set apart. This is why you could never be one of them. Because you weren't meant to keep the illusion alive, you were meant to break it. You weren't meant to follow, you were meant to lead, even if the road feels lonely. You weren't meant to echo their voices. You were meant to bring a sound they've never heard before. And now that you're beginning to see this, the next step is even greater. Because being chosen is not just about surviving rejection. It's about embracing your mission. And that mission, whether you fully see it or not, is about to unfold in ways you never imagined. They stare at you, but they do not see you. They talk to you, but they do not hear you. Deep inside, they sense the difference, but they can never name it. You walk through this world cloaked in a mystery that unsettles their spirits. That's why you've always felt their unease, why you've always noticed the shifting eyes, the sudden silences, the nervous laughter when you enter a room. They know you're not one of them. They know you carry something they can't touch, something they can't imitate no matter how much they try. You are living proof of a higher truth, and it disturbs the illusion they've built their lives upon. Do you ever wonder why they go out of their way to dismiss you, ignore you, or even try to belittle you? It's not about you at all. It's about what's reflected back at them when they encounter you. You remind them of their own compromises, the parts of themselves they've abandoned just to fit in. You remind them of the life they could have chosen but didn't. You are a mirror of the life they're too afraid to live, and that truth cuts them deeper than any insult ever could. So instead of confronting their own shadows, they project them onto you. They label you as strange, as different, as out of place. But that label is really a shield, because to admit the truth would shatter the fragile world they cling to. This is why you cannot expect acceptance from those who live asleep. They cannot embrace what they cannot comprehend. And yet, isn't it curious that they still watch you, still talk about you, still try to figure you out as if you were some puzzle left unsolved? It's because on some level, they know you hold a key they'll never possess. That quiet knowing inside you, that you were sent here not to blend but to awaken, threatens everything they've built on sand. And though they may never say it aloud, their spirits tremble when they sense the strength in yours. Think about those moments when someone tries to provoke you, hoping to drag you down into the same chaos they live in. Notice how quickly they become frustrated when you don't play their game, when you respond with silence instead of rage, with calm instead of chaos. That's not weakness, it's proof that you've stepped into a higher frequency, one they cannot reach. And every time you refuse to descend to their level, you remind them of the prison they've chosen for themselves. That's why they push harder, why they try to test your limits, because if you remain unshaken, then their excuses collapse. But here's the secret they'll never admit. Some of them envy you. Some of them look at your strength, your resilience, your refusal to be broken, and deep inside, they wish they had that fire. They may never tell you. They may even disguise it with sarcasm, cruelty, or judgment. But the truth is, your presence awakens something in them they thought was long gone. You make them remember who they once were, before the world silenced their dreams. And for a fleeting moment, when they watch you, they remember what freedom feels like. This is why you've always been set apart. Not because you were meant to live lonely, not because you were meant to suffer, but because your light was never meant to be hidden under the same veil that blinds the rest. You are not one of them, and that is your greatest gift. Every trial, every rejection, every misunderstanding was designed to sharpen that difference until it could no longer be denied. And now, in this very moment, the world is beginning to realize what it tried so hard to forget. You cannot be silenced, you cannot be molded, you cannot be contained. Pause and let that truth sink in. The world will continue to test you, to try and pull you back into conformity, but you already know it will never succeed. You weren't chosen to be like them, you were chosen to stand where they cannot. And the more they push, the more they reveal that they see it too. They know you don't belong to their systems, their false identities, their shallow games. You belong to something higher. And though they may never say it to your face, deep down they whisper to themselves, "This one is different." And isn't that the confirmation you've been waiting for all along? Not in their words, not in their acceptance, but in the way their spirits react to yours. The resistance, the envy, the fear, the fascination. All of it is proof. Proof that you are not one of them. Proof that you were sent to walk a path they could never walk. Proof that your very existence disrupts the illusion and points to a truth that cannot be erased. Now here's the question. What happens when you stop doubting that difference and start embracing it fully? What happens when you stop trying to blend into their world and finally step into the fullness of who you are? That is where the Real story begins, and that is exactly where we are headed next. And now we've reached the place you were always being guided toward, the revelation that ties every fragment of your journey into one undeniable truth. You are not like them, and you never will be, because you were not born to blend into their world. You were born to reshape it. Every scar you carry, every rejection you endured, every night you felt the weight of loneliness pressing against your chest, it was all evidence that your soul was too expansive to be contained by ordinary cages. They know it even when they cannot admit it. They sense it even if they don't have the words to name it. And because of that, they fear you, they envy you, but most of all, they watch you. The whispers behind your back, the strange tension when you walk into a room, the silent way they try to measure themselves against you. It is because your very existence exposes their limitations. You don't need to prove who you are. Your presence already does that. The chosen don't shout for validation. They radiate it without effort. And this is the part that will break you free. Stop trying to convince anyone of your worth. They will never see it until life forces them to. And life will, because the path of the chosen always leads to a vindication so undeniable it silences every doubt and every mockery that tried to reduce you. Understand this: what they thought was your weakness was actually your refinement. The isolation was your training ground. The betrayals were your sharpening stones. The tears you thought were wasted were watering seeds the world hasn't yet seen bloom. You were being shaped for a moment they cannot comprehend, but deep down they know it's coming. That's why they cling to their denial. That's why they try to laugh you off. That's why they keep you at arm's length. Because some part of them recognizes you are not playing the same game they are. You are not living for applause. You are not chasing acceptance. You are carrying a light that exposes the hollowness of their masks. And here's the secret they'll never say out loud. Many of them secretly hope you fail, because if you rise, it confirms that the voice they've been ignoring inside themselves was right. That there is more to life, more to purpose, more to destiny than the shallow survival they settled for. Your success threatens the comfort of their compromise. Your strength disrupts the illusion of their security. And yet, it is not your job to shrink so they can stay comfortable. It is your calling to rise so they can't stay blind. When you stop fearing their rejection, when you stop aching for their approval, that's when the shackles fall. That's when you finally step into the full current of your destiny. This isn't about ego, it's about recognition. Recognition that you were never meant to sit quietly at tables where your spirit starves. Recognition that your fire doesn't need permission to burn. Recognition that you were born to be seen, not hidden, to lead, not follow, to ignite, not conform. So let this be the moment you choose. Choose to stop dimming yourself for people who will never truly understand you. Choose to walk with the unshakable confidence of someone who knows they were chosen. Choose to trust the silence within more than the noise outside. Because the deeper truth is this: being chosen doesn't mean you're above others. It means you're aligned with something greater than all of you combined. It means your steps are guided. Your vision is sacred. Your voice carries weight beyond the surface. And from this day forward, you will see the signs clearer than ever. Doors will open where there were only walls. Paths will appear where before there was only wilderness. The people who doubted you will find themselves silenced not by your arguments, but by your undeniable becoming. And those who secretly believed in you all along will finally step forward to stand beside you. Because chosen energy doesn't just reveal itself. It calls others to awaken too. This is your moment. This is your season. You don't need to wait for anyone to tell you that you're ready. You've already been forged, already been tested, already been proven. Now walk boldly into the world with the knowledge that they may never accept you, but they will never be able to deny you. For you are chosen, and nothing, not fear, not envy, not rejection, not betrayal, nothing can change that. So take a deep breath. Let the weight of every false identity fall off your shoulders, and step forward into the light that has always been yours. They know you're not one of them, but that's because you were never meant to be. You were meant to be the reminder, the disruption, the spark, the chosen one. And now it is time to rise.